At the border of America and Mexico, a man buried something in the ground. After finishing his cigarette, the driver flicked it away and drove off. As the desert kept its secrets, this is Desert Dawn. At the district attorney's office, Luke Easton took the oath of office as the new sheriff. Later that afternoon, he sat in his office, staring at a photo of his sister Sarah. His thoughts were interrupted when Officer Reed came in and handed him a letter from his uncle Barnes. The following day, the police received a report about a corpse inside a car. Luke went to the scene with Reed and John. The victim was identified as Byron, killed by a gunshot to the head. They found alcohol, Byron's phone, and a photo of a woman tucked inside his shirt. Luke looked at the photo and thought the woman resembled Sarah. He kept this to himself and simply ordered his team to bring the evidence to the office and tow the car. John mocked him, pointing out that the towing company Luke mentioned had already gone bankrupt. Even so, John looked for another service. Meanwhile, someone nearby was secretly watching them from a car, but it sped away when Luke noticed. That evening, Luke visited his uncle Barnes. His uncle was glad to see him back home. They talked about the past, remembering how Barnes had raised Luke and Sarah after their parents died. Luke stayed quiet as he looked at an old photo of himself and Sarah. He admitted that being sheriff still felt new, especially since he had already taken on a difficult case. The next day, Luke and John visited the home of Mrs. Rodriguez, who had known them since they were children. They asked to see her grandson, Eduardo. Shocked and worried, she feared he was in trouble again. Luke reassured her that they only wanted to talk. She agreed to call Eduardo. Eduardo soon appeared, angry at John for bothering him again. He insisted he had stopped using drugs. John pressed him, saying they had proof he was making them, pointing to the recent death. Mrs. Rodriguez urged him to be honest, but Eduardo panicked and fled to the back of the house. Luke chased him upstairs. Cornered, Eduardo pulled out a gun and fired. Luke tried to calm him, saying he did not intend to arrest him, but Eduardo shot again. Luke had no choice but to return fire, killing him.
I just want to talk to you, okay?
John rushed in after hearing the shots and was shocked to see Eduardo dead. He blamed Luke, saying this was a bad start for a new sheriff. Later, Luke went to a clinic to treat his wound. There, he was surprised to find that the doctor was Cheyenne, his former lover. Their meeting was tense at first, but they eventually spoke about their work. After treating him, Cheyenne excused herself to see another patient. Before leaving, Luke apologized for abandoning her in the past. Cheyenne struggled to forgive him, reminding him how he had left without a word. Luke asked for another chance, but Cheyenne gave no answer. That night, Luke exchanged messages with Cheyenne. Later, while asleep, he dreamed of the shadow of the woman in the photo who looked like Sarah. The next morning, Luke reviewed the evidence in his office. He went through the cafe receipts and noticed the name Honesty. At the same time, Reed walked in with Byron's phone. When Luke checked it, he found the same photo of the woman that had been in Byron's pocket, confirming they were a couple. Another photo showed the woman already dead. They also discovered Byron had exchanged messages with an unknown number. Reed began tracing it, while Luke grew more certain that the woman was Sarah. A few hours later, Luke visited a cafe listed on the receipts. There he met Honesty, who said she had served Byron and the woman with him. She explained that Byron often received special treatment from the owner, Morris, but she did not know the woman's name. Not long after, Luke went to the autopsy room to hear the results. The doctor explained that Byron had died from a gunshot wound, with high alcohol levels in his system, leading her to suspect suicide. Luke doubted this theory. He believed Byron would not travel so far only to take his own life. Still searching for answers, Luke inspected Byron's car at the storage lot. In the trunk, he found a bag filled with money. He took it without telling the guard. The next day, Luke accepted Cheyenne's invitation to lunch. He remembered their first date and admitted he still loved her. During their talk, Luke revealed why he had left town. After losing his parents and facing Sarah's disappearance, he had turned to alcohol and caused problems. Overwhelmed, he decided to leave. Now, he could only apologize. Cheyenne said she had forgiven him and promised to stand by him. They rekindled their relationship. Later that afternoon, Luke returned to the office and asked John and Reed about Byron's case and the money. They had little progress, only that Byron's last contact was Morris. John left but brushed against Luke on purpose. Annoyed, Luke followed him and demanded an explanation. John admitted he disliked Luke because of his past as a drunk who caused trouble, yet he had still become sheriff while John had never been promoted. Luke acknowledged his past, but explained he had been working to change for 10 years. He told John he needed his help to serve as sheriff. John did not accept right away but said he would wait to see if Luke had truly changed. That night, Byron's phone received a message from Morris. Morris asked about the money, making Luke more certain he was involved. They agreed to meet, and Luke quickly informed John of this new lead. The next day, Morris was brought to the station for questioning about his connection to Byron. Before entering, John warned Luke to handle it carefully. Inside the interrogation room, Morris refused to speak at first. Luke put the bag of money on the table and said someone was looking for it. Shocked to hear that Byron was dead, Morris admitted he had only hired him to deliver the money. He demanded the money back, saying his client would kill him otherwise. When asked about the woman with Byron, Morris said only that they were romantically involved. On hearing she was also dead, he went silent. Losing patience, Luke grabbed Morris by the collar, convinced he knew more.
Who was the money for?
I don't know!
Tell me who the girl is! Tell me!
Whoa!
John stepped in to stop him, disappointed with Luke's reaction. John took over the interrogation. He warned Morris that if he stayed silent, he would be charged as the main suspect. Cornered, Morris denied any role in the murder but admitted his client was Jack. He warned Luke to stay away if he valued his life. Morris explained he was only a middleman and never handled the money himself. Luke pushed him to set up another delivery. Morris hesitated, fearing Jack would kill him for leaking information. Luke ignored his concerns and left the room. That night, Luke noticed a car following him. He hid behind a building to confirm, but the car eventually drove away without making a move. Shortly after, Morris sent him a message with the new delivery location. Luke decided to pose as the courier. To avoid suspicion, he switched cars before heading out. When Luke arrived at the drop-off point, Jack's man Mike grew suspicious because Byron was not there. Mike called for backup and forced Luke to hand over the bag. Luke asked about the woman in the photo, but Mike claimed not to know. Luke tossed the bag to Mike's men, but inside was only paper. Realizing the trick, Mike ordered his men to kill him. A shootout erupted. Outnumbered, Luke fought back and took down the gunman. In a panic, Mike tried to run Luke over with a car, but Luke shot him dead. He quickly grabbed the bag and escaped. Back at the office, Luke met Barnes, who had already heard about the ambush. Soon after, John arrived and warned him to stay out of it. He explained that the previous sheriff had investigated a similar case and then disappeared without a trace. Luke refused to back down, convinced Morris knew more about the woman he believed was Sarah. Barnes urged him to stop, reminding him that chasing the past could get him killed and that he needed to forgive himself for what happened to Sarah. Suddenly, Luke's phone rang. Jack called directly, demanding his money back. Luke agreed to return it but tried to negotiate. Jack refused and ordered him to deliver it tomorrow, threatening to kill him if he failed. After the call, John sighed, realizing Luke was already in too deep. Meanwhile, Jack met his right-hand man Boyd at a bar with a mafia figure named Kraft. Jack asked Kraft to retrieve his property. At first, Kraft refused, saying Jack already had Boyd. But Jack offered to clear all of Kraft's debts and pay extra. Tempted by the deal, Kraft agreed. The next day, Reed was on patrol when he received a call from John. That night, the two met in the desert to dig. Before long, Reed uncovered the body of the woman they had been searching for, leaving John stunned. Meanwhile, Luke was driving when several cars blocked his path. One of the men demanded he come with them, saying their boss Fernando wanted to meet. Luke was suspicious since he did not know the name, but surrounded and outnumbered, he surrendered his gun and agreed to go. They took him to a luxurious house where Fernando introduced himself as a cartel member. Before speaking, Fernando offered food. Out of caution, Luke refused. Offended, Fernando forced him to eat, saying he would not continue otherwise. Once satisfied, Fernando revealed that Morris had worked with Jack, his rival, to steal cartel money. Byron had also gone after the money and fled with it. When Luke asked about the woman in the photo, Fernando identified her as Dawn. He explained that Dawn had helped Byron steal the money, so he had her killed for betrayal. Luke was crushed, believing this meant his sister was truly dead. Luke asked why Fernando was telling him all this. Fernando said he expected Luke to return the money and help him fight Jack. Luke refused, but Fernando warned that he had no choice since his life was at stake. Luke was then escorted out. Back at his car, Luke retrieved his gun and sat in silence, grieving for Sarah. At that moment, John called, and Luke drove straight to the office. There, John told him the woman they had found was indeed Sarah. Luke rushed to the autopsy room and was devastated to see her body. Standing beside her, he could only apologize for not being there.
I'm so sorry. I should have went with you. I should have been there.
The next day, Luke went to the site where Sarah had been found. He searched for evidence, determined to find proof against Fernando. At first, he found nothing, but then he noticed a cigar butt on the ground and collected it. The following day, Luke received a message from Barnes, asking him to come over. When Luke arrived, he was shocked to see Kraft leaving while holding Barnes at gunpoint. Bernie, one of Kraft's men, also appeared and aimed a gun at Luke. Kraft demanded the money in exchange for Barnes' life. Forced to comply, Luke walked toward the car until Barnes gave him a signal. Both fought back, and Luke managed to seize Bernie's weapon before a shootout broke out. Kraft and Bernie escaped, leaving Luke and Barnes alive but shaken. Afterward, Barnes was taken to the hospital for treatment, where Cheyenne rushed in out of concern. During her visit, Luke asked her to take Barnes out of town to a safe place. Barnes resisted, insisting the real target was the money, but Luke would not risk his family's safety. Barnes finally agreed, and Luke assigned Red to escort them. Meanwhile, Fernando received a phone call. He listened carefully, then reassured the caller that his only goal was to kill Jack. At the same time, Morris returned home and was stunned to see Luke waiting for him. Luke pressed him about Kraft, who had attacked him, but Morris denied knowing anything. Luke then forced him at gunpoint to call Jack. When the call connected, Luke demanded information in exchange for the money. Jack refused and ordered him to bring the bag to a hotel that night. After the call, Luke left to prepare. Morris warned him that going there meant certain death. Before heading out, Luke retrieved the bag of money he had hidden. At the same time, Cheyenne and Reed were at Barnes's house preparing to leave. Suddenly, Kraft and his men ambushed them and kidnapped Cheyenne. That night, Jack arrived at the hotel with heavily armed men. He ordered Boyd to kill Luke once the money was handed over. Meanwhile, Luke rushed to Barnes's house after receiving Reed's urgent call. When he arrived, Reed told him Cheyenne had been taken. Luke immediately called Jack, pleading for her safety. Jack told him she would remain unharmed if the money was delivered. Determined, Luke prepared to face him. Back at the office, Luke armed himself and met John. When John heard about Cheyenne's abduction, he made a surprising choice to join Luke in confronting the cartel. Meanwhile, Fernando received word that the money was on its way to Jack's hotel. Elsewhere, Kraft locked Cheyenne in a hotel room. She stayed calm, convinced Luke would come. Bernie mocked her, saying a sheriff could never stand against Jack's army of men. Soon, Luke and John arrived at the hotel's back entrance. A guard spotted them and approached, but John quickly overpowered him. Luke demanded to know where Cheyenne was. The guard refused at first, but after John roughed him up, he revealed her location.
Third floor. Into the hall.
Luke and John split up, with Luke moving to rescue Cheyenne while John confronted Jack's men. Soon after, John faced a guard, and a gunfight erupted. The noise drew Kraft downstairs, where he ordered Bernie to watch Cheyenne. John managed to kill the guard, but more of Jack's men quickly arrived. Meanwhile, Luke entered another room and came face to face with Kraft. A shootout broke out. Luke stayed focused, lured Kraft into the open, and shot him. When Kraft tried to raise his gun again, Luke finished him off. Luke then rushed to rescue Cheyenne. He fired a shot that startled Bernie, giving Cheyenne the chance to fight back. She knocked Bernie down. Luke was surprised when he entered but quickly told her to leave with him. As they tried to escape, Luke confronted Boyd. He told Cheyenne to hide. A shootout followed, but Fernando suddenly appeared and killed Boyd. Fernando then demanded Luke hand over the money. Before they could settle it, Jack appeared and took Cheyenne hostage, firing at both Luke and Fernando. Forced to work together against a common enemy, Luke and Fernando chased him. With Cheyenne in danger, Luke brought out the money he had hidden. Cornered, Jack struck a deal. He demanded the bag be placed down before releasing Cheyenne. Luke agreed, but Jack pushed Cheyenne, leaving her hanging outside. Jack grabbed the bag and tried to escape, but Fernando shot him. Jack shouted that the money was his, which enraged Fernando. Fernando killed him and walked away with the bag. Luke managed to save Cheyenne just before she fell. Moments later, Luke caught up to Fernando and aimed his gun. He accused Fernando of killing Sarah. Fernando looked shocked and said he had only followed orders. Luke was stunned, realizing someone else was behind everything. Before Fernando could reveal the name, Barnes appeared and shot him. Barnes claimed he was protecting Luke from Fernando. As they walked out, Barnes lit a cigar. Luke suddenly remembered the cigar but he had found earlier. The truth became clear. Barnes was the real mastermind. Confronted, Barnes admitted everything. He said he had cared for Sarah, but when she stole his money, he had her killed. He then offered Luke a place at his side. Luke refused, reminding him he had killed his sister. Barnes decided to eliminate them both. Before he could fire, John appeared and shot from behind.
What about Sarah's life?
I can't do that. Ah, shit! Barnes,
Luke took the chance to aim his gun. When Barnes tried to shoot back, Luke killed him.
you have the right to remain silent. You son of a bitch.
Afterward, Luke thanked John for saving his life. A few days later, Luke handed his badge to John at the office. He had decided to leave town with Cheyenne. On the way out, Luke stopped to scatter Sarah's ashes. He apologized once more for not being there for her. After saying goodbye, Luke and Cheyenne left together to begin a new life. The end. So the moral of the story is never mix family drama with cartel money, it always ends badly.